Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Market Madness. And today, after a very, very long time, like I haven't seen him in what feels like a whole year, a very special guest, the great and powerful Tavis. Oh, and you're muted. I might have done that.
No, I'm fine. Hi, I'm back. It's funny that you put me backstage because you're like, "Can I put you backstage for a second?" I'm like, "Okay." And then the moment I start saying something, I'm backstage and you guys can't hear me. And what I was gonna say was, I literally am co-streaming this with you guys, and I'm saying like, I'm back to live streaming. I don't know what the fanfare is about, but yeah, lots of stuff to talk about. I think when I left you guys, it was not even Christmas. It was like December 20th or something like that.
It was a whole year ago.
It was a year ago.
Exactly. Lots has happened, man. I don't know. We'll talk about it, but
it was funny because I just did my last stream like not too long ago. I was like, "Yeah, we're gonna have a special guest on the next stream," and a bunch of people were like, "It's Tavis, it's Tavis, it's Tavis."
Well, no. But just before we get into it, I guess no SoFi today. We will be doing SoFi Weekly tomorrow
with data-driven investing. So
with a real special guest.
That's right. Yeah.
And today we're just going to shoot the shit on like just normal general market stuff. I had a chance to catch one of the Market Madnesses because where I was, the time zone screwed me up, so I couldn't really join. But you guys talked about Robinhood or something.
What is the time shift?
That would share where I was, Tanner.
Oh, okay.
And I have strict instructions to not do that anymore. But I was in Europe. It was like 4 a.m. for me.
You just did it to yourself.
It's a big continent, bro.
Okay, so yeah, that's very exciting. But I'm sure you kept up with a lot of the news afterwards as well. What are your big names that you're keeping an eye on? And well, I mean, I could probably state them, but I'm really trying to get to what are your thoughts on Tesla. But go ahead and tell me about HIMS.
What about HIMS?
I'm just sure that's what you've been focusing on recently. But
actually, I've been buying a ton more SoFi, like a ton more SoFi. I got puts exercised on HIMS as well, so I have a fairly sizable HIMS position. It's like 15% of my portfolio now, but that's only because I would sell that for covered calls. So I don't want to touch my core position for HIMS, but yeah, man, it's super concentrated now because SoFi is like 33%, and then HIMS is like 15%, and then Tesla is like 23-24%, and then Bitcoin's like 16-17%. So between all those, it's the majority of my portfolio at this point, which is great. I mean, it's definitely looking good.
Got you. Roy, how's your week?
It's good. We actually had a full week in the market for once, and we won't have it next week. It's like they're rarities these days, it seems like. So, but no, it was a good week. How about you?
I've had a great week, but you had a very interesting tweet today. Do you want to, maybe I can bring this up. Do you want to talk about what you potentially did? Because it's not unlike Tavis breaking the rules, talking immediately about SoFi. This is actually a place where you can talk about this company. On the SoFi Weekly, you're banned from talking about this company. But
I will anyway.
Yeah. But here, tell us about what you did with Palantir.
I actually sold some shares today. So I've sold covered calls. I've sold cash secure puts. I've sold options. I've sold leaps. Other than just a couple shares here and there to fill out a trade, I have not sold any Palantir shares ever. So I did today, as long as I had some covered calls that were still just slightly underwater, but I was fine with them going at that price. And it's maybe 22, 23% of my Palantir position. So it's not not the majority. I want to keep those shares basically indefinitely, or absolutely mind-boggling, insane evaluation, which we're not there. It's very expensive, and it's primarily about two things. Valuation is very extreme. Fantastic company. They're a unicorn. They're amazing. But it's very, very expensive. And we've talked about that. And then even so, if it was just like 10% of my portfolio, it's like, fine, I'm going to keep them. It's 50%. So it was prudent, I think, for me to take some profits. And even if Palantir runs up to $100, which it certainly can do, 110, 150, 3 million, sure. I mean, I still have, the majority of my position, and I have, plans with the other gains too. I'll finish maxing out the Roth for the year. Plan to buy some HIMS, some PayPal, and I hate that Robinhood has just been like off to the races. If we hadn't had the week that we had, I'd probably be buying as much Hood as HIMS. Here, maybe a little bit. I'm just kind of doing a DCA thing with Robinhood. So,
yeah. Tavis, what have you been thinking about the recent run up in Robinhood?
It just hit a new high today, didn't it?
Yeah.
Every day.
Every day.
Yeah, like seriously.
On the year, it's up 350%.
I'm sorry, what, in 2025? No.
Sorry, in the last 3 like the 1 year chart. Yeah.
That's great, man. Like, I mean, look, they're a company that, from a product perspective at least, have been proven to execute and innovate on a consistent basis. So the stock price is catching up to them, and I'm happy for everybody who owns it. I don't know. I have a very super basic take because I don't own it.
Right.
Imagine if you bought it 14. Imagine
if I bought it 14. Yeah. Unfortunately, I bought SoFi at like 650 that same day when the China carry trade happened. So I lost out on that.
Unfortunately. Yeah. I think you'd still be up on Robinhood.
Probably.
But you'd still be more than triple your.
So, yeah, that was the craziest thing to me is, Palantir has had just like over the last year, phenomenal, ridiculous year. Yeah. Robinhood is up more on a 1 year time frame.
It's crazy.
The other crazy thing, part of the reason why people, oftentimes talk about Palantir and the extreme valuation is partly, I mean, they're right. I have a video on that, kind of detailing the reasons and showing some of the comparisons in the SaaS space. But the reason why we're not seeing it for Robinhood is because like they're going to be posting Q4, Tavis, and they're within a coin flip of whether they'll have 100% year-over-year revenue gains.
Wow, that's exciting.
Yeah.
When they're supposed to be shooting for 20.
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Is it just like trading volumes or crypto as well, or?
Crypto is the main part for sure. I think it climbed from like almost single-digit percentage of their transactional revenue to half of their transactional revenue.
I think there's new revenue streams, right, from this year compared to last year as well.
Yeah. Event contracts, credit card.
There's also the betting thing. I saw that they made a post around like the volume that they had for betting, or like everybody got paid out on the Trump bet or something like that. Again, like super basic take, whatever comes up on my feed, probably posted by one of you guys. How's the Robinhood Weekly doing, by the way, you guys?
It's good. It's good.
Yeah.
It's
kind of amazing for me that 2 years ago, like no one was talking Robinhood, including myself. Like I wasn't in the name, wasn't interested at all. Somebody that I really respect was looking into it at the time, a little over a year and a half ago. It's like, I need to give this an actual look, kind of like what you made me do with HIMS. And when I actually looked, I'm like, there's no risk here. Why is it being priced at cash? So that's a good thing though. But now, like, and even then, so, I started following it and posting about it. Amit, likewise, right around the same time, several others. Tanner joined a little bit later. But like, even when we post, like, when I post a Robinhood video, a lot lower viewership. It's kind of funny because my Palantir video is probably going to be my best performing video, at least early on. And my Robinhood one that I posted right before that, it gets like no views, and that's fine. I do what I do because I enjoy it. So whether I get views or not, I might get $5 from the viewership, whatever, it doesn't matter. But Robinhood Weekly has quite a number of people that really love that segment, love to chime in. And there's so much news on the name like Robinhood. Even when there's not anything that came out that week, that company goes so deep. I mean, like 144 pages that are not fluff from their investor day. We barely scratched the surface with that. So,
you know what? Honestly, man, like looking at it from an outsider's perspective as somebody who's not in Robinhood, I think that, and I know we don't want to really talk about SoFi, on this particular stream because we're going to save it for tomorrow, but Vlad had a sort of genius PR strategy with that, by approaching, or I don't know who approached who, but basically by linking up with Amit to do that interview, and then later, engaging you guys and engaging more people. Like I know Evan was another one.
Wolf Financial.
Like so many content creators that started a domino effect that caused so much buzz in just the chatter and excitement around Robinhood that I think that, at least from a retail investor perspective, reinvigorated their brand and brushed off a lot of the bad blood that might have been on investors' mind or their only association with Robinhood from, the GameStop days. And just looking back on it, like it's just so much free press, free marketing for that company that it's a pretty genius PR move in general, right? Like we'll get, a nugget of a 20-minute phone call that LaPointe has with Chris Hager, or a soundbite from a fireside chat or something like that. And then we'll create content and replay it and talk about it in multiple instances on live streams and such. But to actually have a CEO do not one, not two, but many, many interviews and invite retail investors over to like investor days and such and let them get a look and feel and play with the platform. Like I feel like that goes such a long way for people who, like us, who essentially do this for free or quasi free.
Yeah, well, it's funny because like I'm a Canadian dude. I have no like even remote reason to be talking about Robinhood other than the stock. And yet like Roy had a conversation with Vlad and he was like, oh, because you guys are doing a Robinhood Weekly, we're going to try to ship something every single week.
That's cool. That's
like that type of communication is so great amongst like a retail audience, which is like literally your customer base.
Yeah.
And what I really love about Vlad and team is like, they really do like us. Like it's not like this thing, like even during the investor days, Vlad was very adamant about getting questions from us as well, not just Wall Street.
Yeah.
Whenever we were talking with him, one of his, like team members there were like, oh, no, you guys can stay, talk to Vlad. He actually likes these conversations. It's Wall Street, which is the actual work, and he has to sort of put on a face, but you guys can stay.
Well, it's also like, so doing it out of the goodness of his heart or passion or whatnot is definitely one thing, and that alone suffices. But if you think of it from more of a strategic lens, the ROI on the time invested, because there's so many of you to amplify that voice, is just such a no-brainer, because it's like you have an investment and it's guaranteed to give you 10x. You put out a PR on Twitter, and instead of doing that, Vlad sends a DM to Roy, let's say, and then Roy talks to Tanner, Roy talks to Mitt, Roy talks to Evan, Roy talks all the other communicators, and then one PR becomes 10 pieces of content, 20 pieces of content. Like if you had that as a stock where you put in $1 and it becomes $10 and it's risk-free, like you put all your money in there. You know what I'm saying? Like in terms of the time he spends and what he gets in return, or the company in general, it's such a no-brainer to engage that community, because as a creator, speaking from firsthand experience, like that's the kind of stuff that creators really live for, like that engagement, not only with their base of fans or viewers, subscribers, whatever, but like also the subject matter that they're talking about. Like they're not a secondary research source anymore. They're a primary research source.
Yeah. No, it's definitely, I would say out of passion as well, but smart on their part.
Yeah, I think now it's somebody else is coming along, and I think we might see this with greater frequency. They're seeing the impact that it had on Robinhood, on Palantir, lesser extent Tesla, but the retail engagement in Shift 4, there's other names too that have engaged more with retail a lot more recently. I think now that it's clear to see at least that there is some value, if not a lot of return. At least when Alex Karp, I've heard this from others, but I've heard that when Alex Karp wanted to approach retail and communicate with retail and involve them and treat them basically like analysts, but with a lot of respect and that sort of thing. He says a lot of weird things about analysts, but the legal was like, absolutely not, don't do that. Other people were advising him, don't do that, and he said, well, I'm going to anyway. And it's the same thing with Vlad. Is it wasn't. It wasn't proven, wasn't surefire, and I don't know which direction it was, with Amit reaching out first or him reaching out. But either way, Vlad's just like,
Amit reached out first, by the way.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't be surprised if Amit was the one to make that connection first. But like,
oh yeah,
you know what, man? It's honestly, if one of us wins, all of us win to some degree, because we are validating the case study that Robinhood is doing in real time to invest their time and effort to engage the retail community as a PR source that's an alternative to just, Newswire or something like that. And I hope that Palantir and all these other companies, especially small cap companies, follow that same trend if that case study is validated. If they're like, holy crap, like we can see the social chatter on Robinhood, the mentions of the ticker, and it's 10x everything else. There must be something here. Let's investigate.
Well, what's interesting, just really quick, because this is a funny story, maybe even Roy might not know this. Whenever Amit reached out originally, they didn't even know where to send him. Like whenever it came into their investor relations, there's like all these different teams that handle like media or different, sort of media events, and social media was just not one of them. So they actually changed the way they internally handle those types of communications, because Amit was like the first dude to sort of reach out. That Vlad and Vlad was told not to do it, and he was like, "No, I love this kid. He's so like," he was funny because they watched the reaction video in the room and saw him like freaking out over the stock price raising or something like this, and what's called Vlad was like, dude, I have to talk to this guy. And then ever since, it's just been like a great strategy for him.
Yeah.
But and that wasn't Amit telling me that story. That was their investor relations guys that told me that story at the Miami event. But dude, the interesting part is that even though we're at essentially $50 a share, is that where it ends? Is this where this ends? There's analysts coming out now calling for $60+ price target, 65. Like,
it's gonna happen, right? Like Palantir goes to 80, and there's analysts saying 90, and it goes to 90, and there's analysts saying 100. Like, that's not the, the bellwether you should be following. But I mean, who knows, man? In a bull market, in an upswing where enthusiasm is high, I think we're going into a pretty optimistic macro, I would say.
Yeah.
It could go higher.
Well, what the interesting thing is sentiment can change for a lot of stocks during bull markets, but like Robinhood actually benefits. Like, right. Which is super interesting.
Yeah, you're double dipping from multiple expansion and also actual growth, and they'll always be cyclical, but they're a little bit less now. But yeah, it's a tough direction, right? Because like some companies like SoFi, Palantir, like PayPal, you kind of know what to expect each quarter, and maybe they'll do a little bit better or a little bit worse, and there'll be some surprises. Robinhood, like 100% year-over-year growth, and then the next quarter they got that $45 million legal fine, which 2 years ago would have been like enough to crush them back down to unprofitability. Now it's like, oh, you need us to leave you a tip, Gary Gensler, as you're leaving? Okay, here you go, $45 million. You're welcome. But honestly, like they'll grow 30, 40%. And then maybe the next quarter, they're up to like 60 or 70%. And it's harder comps too, after this quarter. But they're set up very, very well in a bull market. In the bear market, they'll suffer like every company, maybe a little bit more just because, we saw it. I don't think it'll be as bad as in 2022, but they're just well positioned, I think, for the long term. So I'm enjoying the ride, I thought careful with covered calls, but we'll see if 55s are safe for next week.
Hopefully, no offense to you, but hopefully it hits 55 and keeps going.
54.90.
Yeah. Can we just
4-day week? Come on, doesn't need to go up more than 10%. But no, it's like a lot of it too is tied to Bitcoin, which is back over 100,000.
It'd be a big week for Bitcoin.
Yeah, if Bitcoin went to 130,000, I was like, oh man, I hate it, but also awesome.
Yeah, man. I wonder how fast everything is gonna sort of unravel if, let's say, day one, SAB 121 actually does get repealed, and then banks can custody Bitcoin. It's like, okay, well, how fast does that actually happen? Because it's usually not very fast in terms of the banks moving on that. It's usually okay, these are now implementable, but the real changes happen over the course of months or the next year.
It's going to be crazy, man, for Bitcoin. Isn't there something like 150 executive orders to go out on day one? Something ridiculous like this. And not only that, but just before I hopped on with you guys, I saw this news that 10 states are now, gonna make it a strategic national reserve. And it's reaching that mainstream because, again, the US is essentially the market leader or the first adopter, if you will, on a national scale. Obviously you have El Salvador and all of these other countries that served as smaller case studies. But once the US fully gets on that Bitcoin bandwagon and you have the strategic national reserve, you have this, America first type of crypto with Ripple and Solana and all of these, so many other countries are going to follow suit. We had Massachusetts, we have Florida, New Hampshire was another one. Every day, more and more states are coming out with bills or introducing legislation for that strategic national reserve. And I think that's going to be the administration has proven from their actions that they're really serious about this and that they want to make this, one of those cornerstone policies of that administration. Right. So it's going to be some wild times, I think.
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm just changing the battery on my camera. Roy?
104,400 Bitcoin right now. So yeah, we may. Is that an all-time high? That's an all-time high, right?
104? No. It went to 108, I think.
Why is my chart lying to me then? Oh yeah, we're 106,490. Probably higher than that too, but yeah. Yeah, it's been a little while since we've been here. It'd be nice to see it hold over 100,000. I think that there's longer in the cycle, but yeah, I'm really curious. If I'm actually trying to pull up Tom Lee. He posted something on Bitcoin that I thought was really interesting yesterday. He posts a lot of things. But yeah, so I'll just show this because it's actually kind of interesting. He's talked about Bitcoin for a long time, and he was made fun of, back when Bitcoin was 1,000 or 2,000 or whatever. He's not made fun of anymore, but he was, had some astounding, outlandish predictions that ended up actually being largely true, which is usually the case with Tom Lee on bullish predictions. And likewise has some pretty fantastic targets. So just look how much he's talking about Bitcoin here recently. This is no hodl. Oops. Stock stuff. And then here we go. Positive implications for Bitcoin. 65% chance of per Polymarket, which prediction app, that U.S. National Bitcoin Reserve happens in 2025, which of course is really positive. It's like every other post is like a Bitcoin post these days. Let's see. looking more to hear about talking forward to talking Bitcoins on HODL at this event. So he's going to this event right here. There was another one right here. Well, that's the odds. I don't know. He's posted a lot. So short-term headwinds on Bitcoin is whatever. It just like he's very, very locked into like Bitcoin. It's all about Bitcoin right now. So and obviously like there's so many bullish catalysts for Bitcoin right now. When the bull market cycle ends, that can end in a hurry and we can enter a crypto winter, and we might even this year. But for now, we've not really seen that blow off the top event. So I think we have a ways to go.
Sorry, I missed some of that. I was my girlfriend brought me chicken nuggets.
I can HODL. There you go.
Got you. Now, does this make you want to get into some other alternatives to crypto, like Coinbase or Robinhood or any of these alternative plays?
Dude, is this Robinhood Weekly? We're back.
No, I said Coinbase. I specifically said Coinbase to make it not all about Robinhood. But like, I am wearing a Robinhood hat, and Roy's wearing a Robinhood shirt. So,
market. I love that pun. I want that hat just because of that pun. The market cap.
And liquid assets.
You know, if you should have brought Tavis back some Robinhood gear.
You can have the bottle.
I gave Matt, a cap and a bottle too. That's what friends do. So
I should have bought the stock, and then I would have a bottle and a cap of my own, funded by Robinhood. But what was I gonna say? I was gonna say something. Oh yeah, me and Matt were talking about this around so I have miners as a short-term trade, as a proxy trade, and miners are underperforming right now because Bitcoin's back up to like 105, and then CleanSpark's like $12 or something. So not really happy with that trade. I'm happy that I've been selling against it, and I'll probably let it go around my cost basis ish and just keep miner profits and the premiums that I've collected. But then Matt has had a much more successful strategy where he's just buying and selling against the Bitcoin ETF. Because it's just a more direct proxy. And so to your question, Tanner, around like, hey, Coinbase, Robinhood, whatnot, like if you do, that was really weird. If you do, the camera was like super zoomed in. If you do want like a more direct proxy, like why wouldn't you just go into the Bitcoin ETF, or especially like the levered Bitcoin ETF,
or just buy Bitcoin?
Or that too, I guess.
I know that's weird, right? Boring, but like honestly, like that somebody asked me about that, like with the money that I'm getting for Palantir, it's a good chunk of money. What I'm doing with it, and it's like, hey, why don't you go into master strategy, or why don't you go into like these miners or what? And miners are terrible businesses long term. They're terrible businesses. Master strategy,
MicroStrategy.
It's MicroStrategy. Thank you. It may work out. It may not. It's a little bit higher risk than I want, especially, I don't know. It's just not for me. But yeah, no, Matt showed me the same thing, with what he was doing with the Bitcoin ETF. And I'm like, wheeling that back and forth, that's not a bad play, and it gives you some exposure. For me, at least here in the States, I can't own any crypto directly in my retirement accounts. So what I need to do is have some sort of alternative exposure. Some of that's through Robinhood, but I do have some miners that I swing back and forth. Really just will. And I've gotten out now that CleanSpark has risen up a fair bit. I got out actually about half of my position today. So part of it was I wanted to buy more HIMS. So
yeah, dude, HIMS made a seriously crazy move today because it was down 8% and then it closed the day up. It traded green intraday and it closed flat on the day. And I didn't even catch the bottom. I caught near the bottom. I did cash secured puts at $25, like 70 cents of premium for a weekly. And then by the end of the day, I was like 65% in profit.
Yeah, that's
like
awesome.
Insane move on this. And then my main thing was like, I should have did 26s or 27s. But yeah, it's just so volatile.
Did you catch the reason why for the move?
Yeah, I did. There was something to do with GLP-1s. I think Manuel might have posted about it.
Well, yeah. So there was a Bank of America reiteration of a price target, and they actually indicated that they thought it was probable that Hims would actually miss the revenue. The analyst expectations for the revenue anyway, based on web traffic that was or not web traffic, credit card purchases available through Bloomberg, and looking at the data. There's a little bit of weakness on a couple of days, but I think that they're inferring a lot more from a couple of days, and they should. Debit cards are also accepted. So, if you look at like days in isolation, even like just a handful, oftentimes you run the danger of just inferring too much from just a small sample size, more than than is appropriate. So, I think that's what happened here. It was really weird though, just how Hims suddenly reversed from a massive decline to massively green. And I was a little bit upset about that because, I was like, well, I'm going to sell Palantir today and going to lock in, maybe half of that into Hims. It's going to be a good chunk. And I bought some Hims, with basically all the free money that I had. And then it ran out. And I'm like,
yeah.
Yeah. Can I say really quickly on the Bitcoin ETF conversation? Sorry, I was putting back some nugs. So it is definitely cheaper to buy the ETF than the trading costs of Bitcoin directly, but not to hold it because there's no holding cost for Bitcoin. So it's always good to remind yourself that like if you do have a Bitcoin ETF, you're getting constant fees, management expense ratio for holding that ETF, and Bitcoin just in a wallet, you're not, and potentially you could stake it. Or no, sorry, I'm sorry. Anyway, big crypto guy, not a big Bitcoin guy.
But back to Hims, they are guiding for over 90% revenue growth this next quarter. So it's going to be crazy because if they do beat that guide, like they're going to pull a Robinhood and do 100% revenue growth. It's insane. The company is just. I think that they are going to do very well. Like, I don't buy the whole narrative around like, what Bank of America is saying with the credit cards. Like I saw, I haven't read the report fully, but I saw that the headlines around it. But this is a company that always beats expectations, right? And I just think that the negatives are so overplayed and so much unknown known at this point with regards to GLP-1s and the shortage list and what's happening with tirzepatide and all this stuff. So I do think that they have stuff up their sleeve. I know the CEO was posting about new products coming in 2025 and them capturing more market share. And, I think that we're going to get a lot of insight on the actual earnings.
And to be fair to Bank of America, like it was, even though I disagreed with their conclusions, it was a really well written note. Like, a lot of some analyst notes are, and some are just not. But this, like they did their homework, they did their research, they kind of showed both sides of things, and just they're like, hey, crazy thought, and we know it's crazy, but they might miss. And I think that's what of course caused that initial spike down. It's a very volatile position. So. But yeah, like you said, Tavis, fantastic company. Thank you for twisting my arm and making me take a look.
Can I twist your arm and make you look into anything else like Google, Amazon, or NVIDIA?
I mean, you're a shareholder in Hims now, Tanner, so you should be enjoying this conversation.
I love this business. I love it. I love
Hims. I
makes me hard just thinking about it.
I'm neutral on Google, but I can't. Like the culture and the leadership are such a big part of why and how and I invest, and I can't do it in Google. Leadership's not as terrible as I thought. Culture is pretty bad. They have a lot of great things going, but no. I don't know if I'd rather be I'd actually rather be in Google than Block, but.
I mean, like gun to my head, if I had to pick any FANG for 2025, I would just go Amazon all day, every day.
All day, every day.
yeah, like given where everything is trading right now and the prospects that they have, I think Amazon is the best bang for your buck for 2025 specifically.
It's trading about as cheaply as it has ever.
Exactly.
Okay. But Nvidia, you wouldn't give any consideration to.
Oh no, I'm just thinking like Google, Meta, what are the Apple, Amazon, like the mega stocks.
Yeah. I guess I was thinking like either Mag 7 or Fang. I would take out Netflix and replace it with Nvidia, and then that would be the new
Ooh,
Fang.
that still fits actually.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like Nvidia is cool. Like I own, a chunk. I think I own like 100 shares or something. But yeah, it doesn't really. I'm not super pumped about it. Like it's not one of those stocks that I'm looking at all the time and getting me excited. Like all the ones that I have that do that are a smaller cap.
But Nvidia is the one company that does make. I'm like mind blown about their total
Yeah,
addressable market.
from a product offering perspective, like it's really cool, and I think I like the direction where they're going. I mean, from a stock perspective, like they're not the company that I open my laptop and I'm like, oh wait, like can it be 15% up, 20% up today? Like it's not going to be that company. Hims is, SoFi is, Nvidia is not.
Amazon's not.
That's why I said gun to my head because I'm not buying Amazon right now.
That's fair. But yeah, I think everyone's getting very excited about Nvidia because it's already at like everyone's getting like feeling like things are slowing down because it's already a $3+ trillion valuation.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe this is just like I'm talking the top right now, but I feel like that those are just numbers. Like if if Jensen Huang is right and like he believes that inference is going to like a billion X from where we are, or 100,000 million or billion X from here. It's like, what are we even talking about? Like, I don't know. There's going to be so much business for semis going forward. Just insane.
Can these guys stop freaking closing the market down? Like, it is so frustrating to me. January 1st, market closed. January 9th, Jimmy, like, dude, keep the market open. Monday, market closed. Like,
yeah,
I'm just venting at this point. Like, keep the market open, guys. I want to actually have more days. I feel like, especially now that I'm like playing in options as well, like, give me more days.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually something else, to kind of keep in mind with quarter two. If we have a whole bunch of other random like market closings, just because it's like, okay, we got to factor that into earnings because even though 24-hour markets and there's still crypto and stuff, it makes an impact. So, but no, it's next week, well, Monday off. So we'll have had a total of one full complete trading week in the last 5 at that point, or 6. It's kind of shocking. So
it's like, yeah, this is the 3rd day off in January now. You're like, okay, guys.
Yeah. Actually not good for Robinhood. Funnily enough.
Yeah,
they need trading days, but hopefully crypto comes to their saving grace there. Or well, are they open 24/7 or 24/5 on those off days?
No, they're not. I don't know if there's some sort of regulation or legislation or just custom, or if like Boats makes that call. But yeah, I thought that was the case. I got all excited because so the Jimmy Carter event, like that's customary. They do typically close the market when the president, a former U.S. president.
Any president dies.
Mm-hmm. U.S.
president. A U.S. president.
No, like obviously, but like, how many living U.S. former presidents do you guys have? Like, you must have at least like 7.
I think 5. Is that right? Is there 6?
Bush,
5.
Obama.
Yeah, there's 5. Yeah.
Bush, Obama, Trump.
Biden, Bush,
Biden.
Obama, Clinton.
I didn't even remember the standing president. That is so funny. The dude's not even in. He's probably on the beach right now.
I know he's kind of an obscure figure, but yeah, Trump.
Oh yeah, there's both Bushes. There's senior and
yeah. So I guess
George W.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like,
Bush, Clinton, Biden, Obama, Bush, Trump.
You got another week of closures basically over the next however many years.
If they live like Jimmy, we won't need. We don't need to worry about it. Isn't that so funny? There's like 7 guys, and Tavis is like, they're going to close the market that many days.
Well, bro, I have options here to write. Come on.
Unbelievably historical people.
I had the wrong date, so I had the date, and for some reason I thought that was like a Wednesday instead of a Thursday, something like that. And I was like, wow, look, the market's closed, but Robinhood's open. This is great. And people are like, you dummy. It's the next day. I'm like, oh, yeah. So.
Did Bush Sr. pass away? This is what Nall is saying.
George H.W. Bush? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, he's passed away.
Yeah, so I still don't know what the number is. 6?
Who was before Clinton?
So, well, that's George H.W. Bush.
No, I mean before him.
Before Clinton, it was George H.W.
No,
Bush.
before
Bush you have 2 Bushes.
Before Bush Sr. He said it like 5 times.
Yeah, so you have Jimmy Carter, who passed away, Ronald Reagan, who passed away, George H.W. Bush, who passed away. Okay. Then you have Clinton, and then you have George W. Bush, and then you have Obama, and then you have Trump, and then you have Biden, and then you have Trump again, but he only counts once.
Is the stock market closed in Canada too? Serious? No, actually, I don't think it is.
No.
So
matter. You don't want
that's disrespectful. You guys are soon to be the 51st state, and you really need to close for your president.
You want us to close by us?
Do we want to talk about this? Because there's been some developments that have been going on here. I think you guys are actually going to get Greenland, eh? Isn't that crazy?
It's weird to me that there's a possibility. Like, I in no means, and I know that they've talked about it. There's been theories, and in the Cold War bases and different, but I was like, no, there's no way. And then I realized, there's 50-something thousand residents, and they actually have autonomy to the extent where they can self-determine what they want to do as a country. They can declare their independence. They can join with the United States. And so at that point, all it does is take money, and we don't care about debt apparently anymore. So it's like, hey, let's just throw $1 trillion at it. Everybody's like a multiple millionaire and is set for life, and a United States citizen to boot. There you go. 51st state.
Yeah, dude.
I think that their population is actually too small. So
they have like 50,000 people. You throw 50 billion at it, and everybody's like a millionaire. Like, obviously, they're going to vote your way. But I mean, they won't even, need to do that. I think people will do that even without the $1 million payoff. But the cool thing was that Denmark was like, yeah, we'll leave it to the people of Greenland to vote. And I was like, okay, say goodbye to that country, I guess. It's going to be interesting, man. I found it funny that Flash was like, Canada has a stock market. So I was laughing. But Canada, I saw. Do we want to talk about this, Tanner? I don't know, because
I'll be very selective of what I say, but go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, I should probably be selective of what I say too. Just
I'll not. I'll just say it's really dumb that you feel like you need to do that. I'm not saying you guys are dumb. I'm just saying to be in a country where you feel like there might be potential repercussions for saying one thing or another, and you're not talking and you're not concerned about your audience. I hate that. That's lousy. That's one of the things that makes America great is, our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, having not just an expectation of free speech, but actual free speech that is hard for companies and even our country, even our government to get around to the point where, we can say what we want, even if there are short-term ramifications, like during the COVID times when everybody's like, oh, I can't say the C word anymore. Well, now you can. And the government was wrong to do that. So
I have like 5 C words in mind. I don't know what Canada? Is that
that's the one I was thinking of. Yeah. It's like, yeah.
Cool.
What did you want to say though, Tavis?
What
did you want to? I'm not making you say something, but like, what was the topic on? Just becoming the 51st state?
No. Okay. So it was interesting because Danielle Smith, the premier of Alberta, who is like the conservative province, it's like the Texas of the North here. They have all the oil. They're conservatives. She went down, and she was like the only premier. I think a premier is like the leader of a province. A province is like a
The
state.
leader.
I don't know. I'm taking like super simple terms. She was the only one that was like invited down for the inauguration, and they were down to Mar-a-Lago, and there was a picture that was circulating online with her and Trump and Kevin O'Leary, and basically all the other politicians in Canada came out, and they were like, we're trying to take a unified stance against the US tariffs, except for Danielle Smith, who's like defecting essentially. That was the general gist. Yeah, Supreme Leader. But the funny part is that might have actual implications because Alberta there's like context there because Alberta has had rumblings in the past of wanting to break off, essentially because they're main, money earners with oil, and they're the ones that are super taxed. And so they feel like it's disproportionate in terms of what they're getting versus what they're giving. And so I found it really interesting that she was the one that actually went down, and she's the one that actually is invited. And I'm curious as to what will happen, because if Danielle Smith herself, after this Mar-a-Lago visit, she basically said that if Canada does anything retaliatory, they will start the process to break off. And then Trudeau was out like today or yesterday in a press conference saying that, we're fully prepared to meet the US like shot for shot, basically, if they want to do tariffs. And meanwhile, I'm just grabbing my popcorn here as to, see what's going to happen, because I mean, it's a situation that nobody wants, but it's a war of attrition essentially, right? So we'll see.
Yeah, Pierre Poilievre had an interesting video on that too, where he blames I don't know if it's a Liberal Party, but for putting him in a position where they don't have really much negotiating power with the United States. So I'm really, but if there are retaliatory tariffs, like if that really happens, and there's a chance, that's a real potential negative on the market. Market is forward looking. Typically tariffs, at least here in the United States, when they're put up, tariff walls are, it does take about 2 years for the full weight of that to really be felt on the consumer market and with companies, as far as PPI and those sort of things. But because the market is forward looking, if we see tariff walls going up between Mexico, Canada, United States, and elsewhere, that's really bad.
At that point, it becomes like their bark is worse than their bite from the Canadian side, because if they're going to do retaliatory tariffs, it's mostly going to be around oil, and then Alberta controls all the oil, and Alberta's like, yeah, we're siding with the US. So it's just going to be an internal strife at that point.
Yeah. Hopefully it doesn't happen at all. It's that would be messy. But if it's negotiation and things actually get negotiated well, not just, one side favorite. Like what I also don't want to happen is, out of desperation, Canada's like coming hat in hand, and the United States gets every single thing that we want, and Canada feels, like they got a raw deal, and then like 5 years later, because they've built things out, then that's when the real trade wars happen. So hopefully nothing like that. Like we're great friends. I tease Canada all the time, and I love having you guys there that I can tease you. Yeah, I don't think anything will sour that relationship. But we actually have the longest unmanned, undefended border in the world by far, and nobody's any close.
I don't think it's going to sour the relationship long term. I think Trump is just pushing to see how much he can get away with. Similar to Greenland, right? Like he just threw it out there, and Greenland's like, okay, we'll bite. So I think it's going to be a similar deal with Canada. I don't know why that was. He probably read a comment. Two things I'll say on that. Number one is it's at a really bad time because it's right in a transitional period from a leadership perspective up here. Like there's an election this year. And then number two, it could also play out that Alberta is like the exit route for a lot of people who do want to, like if Alberta wants to break off and everybody who's living in other provinces also wants that, then you're going to see this mass migration to Alberta. Okay, I'm going to look at the comments
now. So, what's funny is that I don't know if we actually will become. I don't know if we actually will become a 51st state or anything along those lines. I don't actually think that will happen. But I do think that there should be some sort of like what is happening in Europe of like having a passport that is kind of between both countries and just getting on the United States dollar. I think the euro is kind of that. They're just, although not every aspect is like a 40-minute drive to another country like it is in Europe, it still is like, I mean, the large bulk of the population is in like southern Ontario in Canada. We might as well be American,
Welcome aboard. Yeah.
So there was this poll. I bookmarked this, I think. There was this poll that was taken. I think I sent this to you, Roy, where it was like 43% of Canadians that were polled said that if their assets are transferred dollar for dollar in USD, they'd be all for a shift over. And that's a huge number if you think about it, because that's just the people that are polled.
I don't.
That actually is a very high number.
Yeah.
For the fact that I don't believe that most people even know that there's a difference in the currency. I actually don't think that that's a well-known thing.
What do you mean, dude? Like,
I don't think, dude, like such a large amount of people don't even know the interest rate that they're paying on their credit card. I don't even think that they understand currency conversion.
I guess.
I think people think of Canadian dollars and US dollars very similarly.
So I think that 40-something%, like probably at least half, are just voting that way because they're mad at the current administration. That's it. It's like if it actually happened, they'd be like, no, I want to keep the maple leaf. I want to keep O Canada. I want to keep our dollar. I want to keep all of these different things that we have in Canada. I guess snow and polar bears. I'm just messing with you guys. But, there's a lot of nice things up in Canada. And I would expect like those that are actually serious is maybe closer to 10 to 15% at most, if that. There's just a lot of people that are upset more than anything is what that poll shows me. And you see that too here in the United States, that there's certain states and certain times where people and states talk about ceding from the United States, which we had a war over in 1800s Civil War. So hopefully not, but it's mostly just showing like those polls that people like are voting on that, and it's this many percentage. It's just showing the amount of people that are upset. Not that if they were thinking clearly and they sat down and they weighed the cost benefits, they would be like, okay, yeah, it's a horrible mistake. We're not going to go that route.
It's funny is I don't know how funny it is, but there is a lot, like a ton of Canadian pride. And I don't know if it would be even remotely close to a consensus to be part of the United States. But I do think better travel and better currency would be good. I don't think Canada needs their own currency. I think that's
the thing that I take offense, not offense to, but like the what I have a bone to pick with is I love that there's so much Canadian pride and patriotism and all of that when there's an external threat. Where was this energy for the last decade while the country was like deteriorating internally? Like, why has there been so much, nonchalance about the quality of life falling?
I don't think, I think it's these things that are like, so slow that you don't even see it until it's all at once, and then you're like, oh my god, what has been happening the last like
I guess, but like I hate the fact that it took Trump to have a couple of tweets and that did more to improve Canada's, political situation than anything internal has done in the last decade. Like, I just hate that that's the reality.
He's I hear more of Trump's statements whenever he talks than I do of Justin Trudeau.
Absolutely. Oh my God, yeah.
Like, it's not even our country. I don't follow any of our politics, essentially. Like, I'm in a little bit different situation than 99.9% of Canadians, meaning all my life is tied up in American dollars practically, other than my house. But yeah, I'd love to come over.
Dude, I don't know any friend. I don't know if it's 99.9%. Like, it's definitely much lower because I don't know anybody in my circle that invests in a single Canadian asset, like other than their primary residence or maybe a secondary residence, like a cottage or something. Like, if you're talking about stocks, everybody's in US equities. Everybody.
Well, one, I don't think the bulk of people are even investing to begin with. And two, like, as a financial advisor in former financial advisor in Canada, if you are setting up a retirement account or anything like this, you are getting the majority in Canadian assets. Now, I don't know if that's designed by Canada to be like, hey, push some of our own stuff, but it's all like, I think a lot of people have a lot of Canadian investments that they don't even realize through potentially, retirement accounts or what have you.
All right, off the politics chat, because we're getting comments around like, yo, what's going on with the politics? Is there any other stocks that we want to chat about?
This isn't a stock, but have you guys heard of Colossal Biosciences?
No.
So the reason why I do, not every day, but when I have time, I'll pull up Sherwood and Sherwood newsletter. Robinhood owns them, and I think they do a great job of covering the market. But it was interesting. This catches a lot of headlines. So they're using the CRISPR gene editing tools. Well, at least that's part of what they're using to look to revive the woolly mammoth. And so it's not all pure 100% woolly mammoth DNA, but they say they're on track to do that by 2028. They're looking at dodos and other things as well. But what's interesting is like that valuation that they actually ended up raising 6 times what it was worth 2 years ago. If you look at biotech, like a lot of the other names there, including CRISPR itself, they've just been pummeled. And so it's kind of curious to see. There's all these that are, working on like CRISPR, sickle cell disease, and a lot of other real valuable cures. Not just valuable in the sense of money, it certainly is, but also for humanity. And the one that gets the attention, and it's just like so much of the market, even though this is private, you can't invest in it directly, is the one that is going to bring back potentially woolly mammoths in a few years. So Jurassic Park, yes.
Yeah, this is another one of those names that I would never ever touch because I don't even know remotely what's going on.
It's a private company, but it's one of those market things. I think people just get excited about a theme or an idea, and they're like, "Ooh, that sounds really fun," and I'll throw. And for some people, he's like, I'll throw 100,000 at it. That's pocket change to people like Tavis. So he might just do that for fun.
So speaking of companies that we would never buy, Tanner, did you buy Joby yet?
No, I don't personally hold Joby.
Okay. Well, when you buy it, I'll buy it.
But did you see that day that they ran like 20+%? You must have been thinking. You must have been like, well, maybe he was on to something.
Well, what's it year to date? Remind me.
What day it was?
No, what's the year to date on Joby?
Oh, don't worry, man. They fell back down. They just stay up there.
Year to date is only -3%, but they had a bad day today.
Now, to be fair, it's still better than freaking lemonade.
Yeah, lemonade. And just like, dude,
Transmedics.
I buy lemonade at 18. It goes to 55, and then I give it to Chris, and it's back down to 30. I'm like, damn it. Yeah, so we'll talk about the 2 leveraged ETF tomorrow, Skittles.
Yeah, tomorrow is all SoFi. All SoFi tomorrow. Today, let's talk some freaking Tesla, dude.
Or we can talk Block. I'm a shareholder.
Didn't you guys get like sued or something?
What do you mean, you
Block,
guys?
yeah. No,
The
oh
block.
my goodness, Block is just such a disaster. Like, I think there's so many things wrong with it, and the biggest thing is Jack. But yeah, I think it's $245 million combined. They got slapped with fines and fees from a couple different organizations, and it's uniquely Cash App, basically not taking proper. Well, most of it is not preventing money laundering and not doing what they were supposed to be doing. People were, as far as like headlines talking about Robinhood and the 45 million, is like there's 30 companies involved. This is really a failure of the SEC. In this case, it's not. It's like very specifically a Block and a Cash App thing. And 245 million for Block is like losing a fourth of their net income for the year. And of course, they have to fix it too. We'll see if they actually fix it. But it just, oh my goodness, dude! Like Block, and they're also changing their ticker symbol though. So at least they have competent leadership helping to do the important things like change the ticker to XYZ.
While we're on the conversation of Block, I have to talk just a tiny bit of Tesla or a bit of SoFi. Sorry.
I was like, anything but Block is fine. I'm done with Block.
We're not going to get into SoFi until tomorrow, but Vadim did pull the job descriptions or the job titles that they've been opening up this week. AML, 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 AML. Just related. Nothing. Yeah. I think there's a couple other ones. AML platform. It's in my belief they saw that freaking thing and were like, you know what? We can pay out and increase our headcount. It's never going to get anywhere near $225 million.
Yeah.
And
I don't think it's a coincidence at all. I think it's very related, especially that many names. Like if you saw two, it's like whatever. But they really don't want to be deficient in that area. And that's one of the things I really like about SoFi is they're prudent. They don't just wait till things break, then they have this massive fine. They will get fined because they're a public. Well, they're just a company in general. Yep. It's big. And it's inevitable, but
especially in the financial services area.
Oh yeah, like it happens. Don't be shocked, but yeah, good for them. Lousy for Block, man. We talked about this. So Tanner, I was messaging Tanner, talking to him one time about a hedge that I had as far as an idea on the market because I saw some consumer weakness. I think buy now, pay later is kind of a riskier product as far as regulation. It's one of those few areas where I can see more regulation, not less, under the Trump administration. And, if there's a broad market pullback, I was like, you know what? Makes a lot of sense to actually not short, but at least buy puts is not Afterpay. It's not Affirm. It is Sezzle. And Sezzle has no options chain. And I'm so mad. But Hindenburg, the Bear Cave as well had, short reports out on it. I didn't even realize that when I was looking at the name. Then when I was doing research, I'm like, oh, these guys are seeing it too. Sometimes they have hit or miss. Hindenburg, by the way, maybe we'll talk about that. But they're hanging it up. They're no longer doing what they're doing. They're going into a different direction. So probably the most renowned short firm. But so instead of Sezzle, because they have no options chain, I am seriously thinking about buying puts as a hedge.
Can I guess?
I bet you can.
Do I know? Right. Is it Dave?
I've thought about Dave. Dave is actually one of three. Dave,
Money Lion,
and
it'll be a buy now, pay later name, but big enough to have an options chain.
Yes.
PayPal. No. I don't know. Klarna. I don't know.
Klarna's not public. So Block.
Yeah, they are. Klarna's public.
European stock exchange, though.
Yeah, you're European.
Yeah. Yeah, Block.
Oh, yeah, I knew this. Yeah, you told me this.
Dude, you can't have shares and have a short position. Like you're betting against yourself there.
I'll make a lot. Well, it'll be a hedge.
It's be more than $100.
So the thing with a hedge is this is not for me to make money. It's for me to protect against the downside, and especially with selling, a good chunk of Palantir, which kind of was protected against downside just because those were deep in the money covered calls. I don't have near as much protection there. So I don't know that I'll do it. I don't know that I'll do anything with that. But Affirm is one, that I thought about for about 2 seconds, and I'm like, if Max Levchin wasn't there, maybe. I don't want to bet against Max. I might be right in the short term, in the long term. Well, it's a hedge, but so it wouldn't be necessarily bad as a hedge. But yeah, I'd rather go out against like a Dave or a Money Lion, which I think could be very vulnerable and are pretty extended. Even though Dave is a SoFi customer, so sorry. I don't know if Dave has an options chain though. So
what's so funny is like you can find these companies that have gone up like 1,500% over the year that happened last year, which was like Dave, Sezzle, these sort of names. Immediately, unless there's some crazy thing that's happened with their company, most I'm trying to think of examples where that's not the case, but something has gone seriously wrong. Okay. Like there can be times like Tesla can run a lot in a single year, but then there was like unbelievably good press. The Model 3 came out, there's, best-selling cars. Like you can understand why they're working. If Kalshi was a publicly traded company and someone told me it was up 1,000% in the year, I'd be like, that makes sense. They did something unbelievable. Dave, Sezzle, Zip, no, bro. Like immediately, that should be a massive red flag.
It's not just a red flag on the individual company. I think it's also highlighting consumer weakness. That there's, I know that we're all up and to the right and things are going great right now, but 2 weeks ago that wasn't the case. So, all right, send the jet. But no, like really, a lot more consumers are turning to buy now, pay later and early payday because they need the money. They need to buy something, and that's consumer weakness is a real concern of mine. I don't think I think we can overstate the weakness at this point, especially in light of these bank earnings, which have just been absolutely phenomenal. And it's not all about the consumer with the bank, but that's a good chunk of it. Yeah, it's a concern.
Yeah. By the way, some people are already, that is not actually Vlad. I don't know if it's one
we
person.
don't know that. We don't know that. It's
I'd bet against it. I don't know if he's saying sup baby.
I mean,
but I don't know if it's one person or a group of people, but they always make these accounts like Jerome Powell, Anthony Noto, David Chiavrini, Tavis's calves, stuff like this. Like just, I don't even think that's one. I just made up one.
Calves.
That's going to be, you spoke it into existence.
I was like, this podcast is like, chest up, dude.
But don't you look like Tavis looks like a guy with huge calves? Like you grew up biking, dude.
I did. Okay. Thank you.
And me, I look like I have really bad skinny calves, and it's true. So sometimes it's good to judge people based on their tits up look. It's the market madness, all right? We're going crazy here.
It's bootleg madness, actually.
According to your stream.
Putting both of us 2 out of 3.
You did bootleg madness?
I did.
Oh, I'm going to kick a bucket.
Solidarity with my brother Tavis.
Dude, what did I tell you in our private chat? I'm back, all right? I'm injuries gone, back on the main field. Subs are out. Let's go.
Subs are out.
First team's back in.
Yeah, dude, that's really funny. There's going to be some people that come on. They're like, hey, love to join the SoFi Weekly. Like, no, Tavis is back. We don't need you, Noto.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Noto, get out of here.
Yeah, come on.
Go run a company.
What are you going to tell us about SoFi that we don't already know? Come on.
Yeah. Jeez.
So let me ask you guys this. In light of my, like, hey, Sezzle, I think it's up way too high. I don't short. If I did, I probably would have shorted Sezzle. And there's risk with that. So, I'm not saying anyone should short it. But if you had a gun to the head moment and you had to short a company this year, what company would that be?
Bro, the nastiest answer is Apple.
No, man. Are you here to make money or like what? Like,
I don't want to make any money shorting. I just don't want to die.
Don't, but like Apple? Like, even if it goes right and it falls, I don't know, 20%, like, you're still not, it's still Apple. Like, might as well just short the QQQ while you're at it. That's probably a better bet on.
Nope, it's not. I think Apple is gonna like genuinely go down.
You gotta go for some controversial picks, man.
I don't bet on that happening over the next 12 months, but like I don't foresee them being the fighting for top spot in the stock market.
Yeah,
and that's heavily biased because I don't use any of their products.
People are paying a lot for like a couple percentages of revenue growth. It's like, man, especially when money when they have a lot less yield on their cash, and also investors are not prone to run to them as a safe haven, which they have in the past. Yeah, I don't think it's going to tank, but Apple used to historically, and I think this will happen again. We'll go through these seasons where Apple is just flat for like 3, 4, 5 years while they're building, while they're growing, and then eventually they're like, oh, we actually release something exciting, which less and less often. But I mean, I don't know. If you're going to pick a Mag 7 target, I think that's one to pick. I wouldn't bet against Apple. What about you, Tavis? What's your short?
Does it have to be Mag 7?
It could be anything.
No.
I'd probably short a Bitcoin miner, but not one of the top 3. Like Bitfarms or something, because I just think that as more time passes, it's going to get more and more detached, where people are not going to default to them as a proxy bet on Bitcoin. And like we're seeing it firsthand with the top 3, CleanSpark, Riot, Marathon, where Bitcoin was 100,000, CleanSpark was like 18, and then Bitcoin fell down to 90, CleanSpark fell to 10, and now Bitcoin's like 105 and CleanSpark's like 12. Like it's not as strong of a correlation as it was before. I think that's going to get further detached. I would definitely short Joby too, but
honestly, it's not a bad answer.
Yeah,
that's silly, guys. It's silly.
Yeah, I'm saying SMCI. That might be a good one. It's one of those risky, like high risk, high rewards. Like it could just go away, or they could be back on the up and up and just print money, and that's dangerous. CVS, I don't mind that name at all.
Short Netflix. Oof, that's a spicy one.
Netflix, I wouldn't do. I
wouldn't do that.
Yeah,
I would have shorted Netflix 2 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
And then now with what they're doing with live stream or like live streaming and sports and everything, I would not touch them.
Yeah, the Super Bowl Christmas stuff and like they're just doing so much. They just need to get their shit together on the actual live streams, but they will.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Intel's a good one too. I don't know if I'm betting on CPUs going forward.
That one's tough. I mean, so they have a new CEO.
Maybe short Adobe.
Adobe's been a laggard. So maybe I don't know enough about Adobe as far as like the stock. I know some of their products, but Intel is tough because like it's a new CEO. You don't know what they're going to do or how they're going to do that over the short term, and also the government just gives them free money all the time. So it's like, I don't know. You would have been right all the way through this. I would not be long Intel, but I also wouldn't short them. That's when I'd just be like, no, I'm not touching. Dollar General might be one, especially if there's more consumer weakness. They benefited from it last time, but I don't think they'll benefit nearly as much this time. Ionic. Yeah, quantum computing. You guys saw so quantum computing began to be, at least in some circles, like all the rage for a little bit. And of course, Jensen Huang and the NVIDIA, I believe it was the NVIDIA Investor Day. I don't know if
Developer Day.
He mentioned something about quantum computing. Did you catch that at all, Tavis?
No.
Oh, sorry. I didn't. You're sorry. Not the Developer Day. What got a lot of people excited is that NVIDIA announced that they're going to be doing a Quantum Developer Day, which got people excited. But then there was another conference where he said that quantum's probably still 20 years out.
Yeah, and they felt like 50% on the day or something like that.
and they kept falling. And I think maybe there's been some recovery. Mark Zuckerberg was also asked on this, I believe, when he went on Joe Rogan's show, just like what he thought about quantum computing. And he basically said, yeah, I know very little about quantum computing. And if a guy like Mark Zuckerberg says that he knows very little, I think a lot of the people, there's probably some people in X that know a lot about it and they're investing accordingly. But a lot of the folks just know the idea. And, actually, I think even somebody asked me what I thought about quantum, and I don't know. And that's one of the reasons why I don't invest in it is if it's something like transmedics and organ transplants, I'm like, I don't know how that whole business and industry works, and I don't care to find out. Quantum computing, I've heard about it. I know the idea, but like, I have no idea where the technology is at, where it's going. It's tough.
What I'm really betting on, and the reason why I'm definitely not as bearish as those guys who know way more than me, is that what they're looking for is a breakthrough moment. And that could be now, or that could be 20 years from now. And it's, from my understanding, a lot of trial and error in between those points, or guesstimations. So, like, I don't know when it's going to happen. I do think that we're going to end up getting there. My thing that I would not bet against is with AI and essentially just a ton of simulated amount of tests that you can do digitally. And now with all these companies that are increasing their actual amount of compute, like all of this is going to get a massive ramp. I would not bet against like a lot of these types of breakthrough companies, biotech. I'm sure a lot of these companies are going to do very well because the amount of compute just worldwide has skyrocketed. And I believe over the next 5 years is going to multiply many, many times.
Dude, but like, I think that's a fallacy though, because just because something is a trend in the macro or a breakthrough in a development life cycle, it doesn't magically make these companies better or viable as a business model. Like biotech was super interesting in terms of the breakthroughs that it was achieving, and then plenty of biotech companies went like, I remember buying one in Vitae and now it's bankrupt. It doesn't exist anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of these companies are burning through their cash on a limited runway to achieve that viability. And just because we're now in an awareness hype cycle doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to coincide with the actual viability to make this business, make some money so that they can become sustainable. It's a matter of timing. And a lot of them can just run out of cash much sooner than that actually happens, regardless of what's going on in the news and what NVIDIA is doing with GPUs and whatnot, right? Like the compute can be there, the processing power can be there, but the business model can not line up in terms of can they get their funding? Can they become sustainable? Can they get on their feet?
So a couple things. One, I think you're going back to the original question of, is Ionic a good short or something like this? That could be up in the air. Going to the question around, is quantum 20 years out? Doesn't matter if those companies can survive or not. It's whether or not quantum is going to make a breakthrough. Google is not going to go bankrupt finding that breakthrough. The company that solves that problem will get funding, So it's almost like robotics. Like the second the transformer was figured out for LLMs, it was over. We didn't need to worry about the revenue perspectives. We don't need to worry about the revenue perspectives for self-driving or for robotics. These companies are getting funded billions and billions of dollars because we'll figure that part out. That's not the hard part. It's just figuring the problem out.
I agree with you. I just think that, let's say, what is a time frame for quantum to be figured out? Like for me, for example, the only reason I would care about that is if I can make money off it as an investor. Like obviously it's going to increase my quality of life as a consumer in some type of way, but thinking as an investor, it's okay, how can I invest in quantum? And so the business viability is just as good as the thing, the theoretical breakthrough itself. Because if quantum gets solved, much sooner, like if a business application reaches critical scale, is what I mean by get solved, much sooner than 20 years, then somebody's going to be a winner. And that's what we're trying to find. if the thing as a whole remains a theoretical concept that doesn't have any business application for 20 years, then it's a moot point because they're all going to go freaking bankrupt. And we won't care because we won't have any exposure to be able to even invest in it if we don't have any avenues for it.
I'm more talking about just the, like, if you're thinking about the probability of what it's happening, I'd lean on the side of over or under 20 years. I'm leaning to under, you know,
probably
like that's all I'm saying. So you are right. But if you do want quantum exposure, I would think about a company like Google, because it's not going to impact the bottom line and they will be there figuring it out 20 years from now.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's the quantum, though. I did see a comment by somebody who said that they were in that space and they said Jensen is wrong. That was one of those that stuck in the back of my mind when Jensen had said those comments, and then of course announced that there'd be a quantum focus on their developer day, whatever next day thing that NVIDIA is doing is. What if
developer day? It's not a section; it's the whole day.
What if NVIDIA is actually behind here? They see a real challenge by some of these startups, and I think some of them are not even worth the name on the paper, honestly. But maybe some of them are and have a little something, and Jensen knows that. What better way to kind of push that back and buy themselves some time than say something like that? So I don't know that he said it that way, but that's what's stuck in the back of my mind, and it's just like the way he said that and the timing of the announcement. Just like that's a little bit sketchy. So, but
it is weird.
I think it'll work for him, even if that's the case. I think he'll. I don't think many people are thinking that way, and it worked. So.
Yeah, it's not just the sentiment change, right? Like if you can make investors think that quantum isn't coming around, then the funding to those businesses will dry up. And then if you don't have funding, you don't have employees.
For companies that are pre-growth, or not pre-growth, they're actually making any money at all. I know they have like a little bit of revenue on paper. Like it's so critical that they maintain a good, healthy valuation. That way, many of them are able to dilute, of course, shareholders, which is what they do, or they'll have, senior convertible notes or something like that. And there's just a lot fewer tools you can do in your bucket when you're burning cash.
Yeah.
And cash is less valuable all the time because of inflation. Your yield is actually going lower on that, and your valuation has just been crushed. Like it does have a big impact on that. And if you are not able to raise the funding like you need, maybe you don't accelerate quite as fast as you thought. And so Jensen has just bought himself, a couple of years.
But like, I do think that it's going to come at different stages for different applications because it's such a big scale. Like, we're bucketing it into like, hey, quantum, when will that be solved? But like, are we talking about, optimization problems in logistics, resource allocation? Or are we talking about like drug discovery and healthcare, like cryptography in general? Or like the financial space. Like there's so many different applications that this thing can be used in. And it's like saying, oh yeah, AI is here. Okay, well, do you mean like LLMs or do you mean Gen AI or do you mean like what type of AI? Do you mean AI in your backend to help streamline processes or do you mean like a chatbot? Like there's so many different applications that are bucketed into this like catch-all, slogan.
But the thing is you don't need to worry about that at all. Like,
but you do because different companies within that bucket, within that vertical, focus on different aspects of that problem.
But not right now, they're not.
What's that?
Not right now, they're not. Right now, they're trying to solve quantum. And of course, what you're saying is true.
What does that mean?
Well, they're just trying to be able to keep these qubits stable. Like the actual ability for them to use this system while it's still giving accurate results is the problem that they need to solve. And so like it's like saying Ethereum is the layer 1, but once we start getting down to the layer 2s and everything like this, it's like, okay, well, how do we actually use this product, right? Or AI in general, how do we actually use this product? I think right now we're just trying to find out who is OpenAI, don't worry about all the subset companies or how they're going to be able to help you. Find out the companies that are just simply trying to solve this problem. And like, what's interesting about this, it's almost like a biotech question. It's like, it's not like robotics and like, oh, how do we scale it? And maybe it doesn't. It's like one day the lights are going to turn on. Mm-hmm. Like it's the day before the transformer, which was actually a way of solving this LLM problem that they actually kind of discounted. They said, oh, well, it's actually not going to be this way. Trying to solve, natural language processing by looking at each individual letter is just way too slow. It's never going to work. Turns out it's the most accurate and fastest way to do it. Or at least that's the way that we've gone down that road. But like, we just haven't even solved that. We haven't found the transformer yet. We don't know how to keep these qubits stable, let alone what to use it for.
I mean, if it's in that stage of infancy and it's so theoretical still, where you're not even thinking about the commercial business applications because you're just trying to test the viability of it.
Yeah, it's fully theoretical right now. They don't even know if it's possible.
And like, then to me, it's like, I feel like the market has gotten more and more and more. I want to find a term that's more professional than thirsty, but it really is that, because, like, you had a huge wave of time where you could invest in certain verticals or certain companies, like social media, for example. You might have had a decade where if you caught Facebook in 2015, 2016, you would have still made a ton of money. And then you had cloud compute in general. Like if you caught AWS halfway through, you would have made a ton of money. And then it's like the cycles get shorter and shorter and shorter. Whereas now, like AI, people are jumping in and giving OpenAI like a $90+ billion valuation, where it's just like a proof of concept essentially in the grand scheme of things. And now you even shorten that time frame of your expectations to reality with something like this, where it's completely theoretical and you're investing on it strictly based on the potential of what it can become. And to me, that's like adjacent to like, gambling, right? Because you feel like you're going to miss out. You feel like you're going to get FOMO, whereas the race hasn't even started yet and you're picking a horse, like.
What I would say is it almost think about it like Tesla FSD, and they just had this 30-year breakthrough from Google, which was Willow, the Willow chip, and they increased their accuracy, but it was so small. It was like, imagine Tesla FSD, but you're measuring disengagements by a mile, 2 miles per disengagement. Like it's maybe even less than that. It doesn't even get you remotely to the end, like to the destination, but people can foresee that this will be something that is done all over the world. In like every single car will end up doing this. What's interesting though about quantum, like even they said, oh well, we were able to solve this this question with Google's quantum thing that we wouldn't even have been able to do in like however many millions of years using the best supercomputer. But what's also funny about that is they not even 100% sure that they can verify that the answer is even correct, because we don't have millions of years to find that out.
Yeah, it could be a hallucination. So
yeah,
it is pretty interesting though. I do think like at some point, just for Moore's law to continue to be in operation, like it has to switch to the quantum level. So we'll see. I think it's more of a when it gets there, and it may take a lot longer. It may also be a lot shorter than people think. We tend to be pretty bad at guessing when technology is not like real close and imminent, when it'll actually land. Case in point, if you look at a lot of science fiction in like the 50s and 60s, like they'd put things in like, at 2020, and there's like moon bases and Mars and flying cars and no internet. It's like, oh, okay. You missed it. And we're doing the same thing, I think. Not that quantum computing, they did have AI, they had robotics, like those sort of things, self-driving cars, like those ideas were out there. But quantum computing is a win, and it could be a very long time. It could be a much harder problem than we think. It's been a very difficult one so far.
What's also pretty cool, while we're just talking about this future, is all of these sort of futuristic calls back in like the early 1900s, which are like, we're going to have flying cars to deliver your newspaper. It's like so wrong, yet so right. Like they knew how the technology could advance, but they could never see anything that just was a completely separate thing. For example, one of them, I think Mark Zuckerberg was talking about this, or so I forget where I heard this, but out of all the sort of futuristic depictions of where we're going to be, almost everything was thought up of, like from multiplanetary species to supercomputers, AI, robotics, everything will all get taken care of. Not many people, in fact, I don't think there was any depiction of any sort of social media.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that weird?
Yes. And I expect that even over the next 25 years, there's going to be something like that where no one has even thought. I mean, there's maybe a couple of people that have thought of the idea, but it's not even in our consciousness yet. My curiosity is, will quantum computers, as far as a breakthrough, happen first, or will SoFi actually be able to solve the level 1 options dilemma and implement this? Both extremely difficult problems, both extremely unlikely, even in our lifetimes. But I think quantum might come first.
What was the 2 options? Quantum and what?
SoFi implementing level 1 options.
Oh, okay, got you. Okay, I thought you actually had a fun question.
No.
Maybe they'll use quantum to implement the level. Like at this point,
they might need to.
Yeah. We'd have dark mode by now. Actually, we did actually just get.
We do have dark mode now. That's why we're rallying
this week.
That's why we're rallying.
We'll save that tomorrow for SoFi Weekly.
Yeah. Other news: Shift 4 had a weird,
nobody cares, dude. Nobody
unmistakable.
Cares. No, move on.
0 people care.
Jared Isaacman's out. You should be out. Just
save it for your own show.
Here's my prediction. He's not out. Here's my prediction. He's going to do what Jeff Bezos did. He's going to try to do something else and not be able to, and he's going to go to work every day.
Isn't Jeff Bezos currently out?
No, he's working at Amazon every day.
I thought he was doing Blue Origin more than he was doing Amazon.
He said on a podcast, he did his first conference recently, probably like a month and a half ago or so, and he said he works at Amazon every single day.
Wow.
I think in office as well. But so I think there's this idea that these CEOs, whenever they do take a step back, are able to do that. And it's different, right? Jeff Bezos was, doing Blue Origin, but also kind of like potentially semi-retired. Jared Isaacman is actually going to be also heading up a space program, NASA. I also think he's going to be doing on the side. I think he'll have enough time on his hands. This is a guy who's developed and sold multi-million-dollar companies while still doing Shift 4. And if that happens, guys, you want a piece of Starlink's or SpaceX's future, that's a proxy. Okay? Get a little piece of SpaceX in Shift 4. All right, I killed the vibe. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for watching. I'm going to have
why are we ending on Shift 4? This is what happens when UMC. This is what happens when UMC. We end the stream on freaking Shift 4.
No one likes to make money here, I guess.
Well, not if they're in fucking Joby, Tanner.
I'm not telling people to buy Joby. I told one person to buy Joby and he didn't buy.
No, I didn't buy. And I'm not gonna. Until you buy, unless there's mutually assured destruction of our portfolios, I'm not doing it alone.
It's Friday night, ladies and gentlemen. Go enjoy your night. Have some fun. Sponsored by Hims. No, I'm kidding. Thank you all so much for watching. Really do appreciate your time. And bye for now.